Hey everyone, thank you so much for coming to another great interview for the 2023 Business Connection Virtual Summit. I am Bill Marshall and I am joined by Joe, and we are going to be talking about the ever important SEO, search engine optimization. I think a lot of people don't even know what it is or how it works. So we're going to dive into it. But before we begin, Joe, please tell us who you are, what you do, and a brief little introduction into SEO.
Hi, Bill. Thanks for having me this morning. My name is Joe Welusz. I'm with Acularis Marketing Solutions. We're a small boutique firm here in New Jersey. Been in business a little over 10 years. My specialty at the firm is actually SEO. And what that is, it's search engine optimization, like you said. But to really think about it a little bit better is how you show up and what makes you show up on the search engines. So if you go to Google, Bing, Yahoo, they all have their own algorithms. And this is how we tweak what's on your website to help you and your website perform a little bit better so you can be seen and found and make money through your website.
Awesome. All right. So to kind of start things off, I think that let's wrap our heads a little bit more around SEO. So it's going to help us get found on the website. So why is that important? And what are the things we can do to start being seen?
So it's important because think of your website as your virtual brochure. Um, Everyone goes online now to do research and to find out different products they want or services that they want, and that's where they're most likely going to find you. Is they're going to go to the search engine first before they find your website, because they're not going to know the name of your company or your product. So they're going to go there and they're going to start looking around. Um, the SEO portion of it is what actually helps you to rank high for the terms that people are searching for, so your website can be found if they don't know your brand name. That's the best way to describe what I guess SEO is. And then how we get there is there's different things on your website that most people aren't aware of, like site speed and just making sure that simple things like title tags and meta tags are set up correctly. And the title tag and meta tags, that's what's shown. If you ever do a Google search, you'll see like word listings. And, if you're searching for Coca-Cola, it'll say Coca-Cola, soda developed in 1912 or whatever. I don't even know what it says. But it's the words that are there. So the title is usually the name of your website or what you're looking to promote, and then you have a brief description underneath that, and that's your meta description, and that's you actually put that in your website, and that's what shows up on the web itself when people are searching for the different things that you offer. So that's like the core base of like the very beginning of what you need to do. Then it goes into site speed and a whole bunch of other things that we could tweak, and then doing things like structured data and things like that. I know it could get kind of complicated, and that's why people they could do a lot of things themselves using things like Wix and other things like that, and they make it really easy for the user to do it. But when you dive down, a lot of those sites don't perform well because you can't tweak the things you really need to tweak to make them really stand out above your peers, because you have to think about there's probably 1,000 other people, 2,000 other people trying to sell the same things you are. So how are you going to stand out compared to them? To do these little things that we do actually help you get there.
Absolutely. And I think that that's a good point to have because in all business, there's always a factor that we can do ourselves. There's always something that we can put together ourselves. But when it comes time to make that next jump, to get to that next level of business, that's where we need to start looking at the intricacies, the smaller pieces that are going to make that jump. Whether it's something like you said, the deeper stuff inside the website that is going to make it pop even more, or even our product being better shot with video, or the sales process being tweaked with a better software. So there's always something that's going to bring our company to the next level. So when we're putting all these different data pieces on our website, how do we start coming up with the words that we think are going to pop?
Well, that's where we actually start when all of our campaigns is with keyword research. So we dive in and we usually ask our clients for a list of their competitors. And then we grab their competitors, we put them into some of the software we have, and it tells us everything that they're ranking for. And then we run variations of all those different things through the software to find out what has the most volume, what people are searching for based on those different terms. And then it's not only what they search on, but then we also look at which ones are buying terms and which ones are more knowledge terms. Then we go there too. Knowledge terms are usually a little bit easier to rank for, so that's going to make you more of an authority in your niche. If you rank for those knowledge terms, but they're not necessarily buying terms. So that helps with branding, which is great long term. But a lot of companies that we're working with, they're looking for a more of a short term solution. So we have to really start looking at money terms. And when we're looking at money terms, things that have the highest volume might not be the best words to go after in the beginning, because they might be the most difficult words to go after as well. So we have to actually break it down between what's has a decent amount of volume that's going to drive traffic, but also something that we can attain rather easily. And that's a big part of what we do. And then that helps us actually build the foundation of writing those title tags and the meta tags and making sure the content on the site works around those terms. And then we start building out pages and making sure the functionality of the site actually plays that way. And the UX of the site, the way it's laid out, actually helps the spiders find things in a certain way.
Absolutely. And I think that I know me personally, I've always been tech challenged, let's say. So, it's one really good to get a clear picture of that because you did really well explaining that. But also, I think it's also important for entrepreneurs to understand, much like we kind of mentioned a little bit earlier, that there are going to be things that they're not amazing at. And it's when you get to that deeper stuff, it's going to be good to find the person who does understand it because I do think that people have said that like, oh, JavaScript or HTML or just like coding and things like that are a whole nother language, and they really are. And, you know, it's not something that everyone's going to be able to understand. And with the algorithms, let's talk a little bit about them, the things that go out and search for these pieces. How are they working? How often are they changing?
um, More, they probably changed 5 times in the last second that we just spoke. We know that there's at least 700 to 1,000 changes a year on Google's algorithm itself, just by itself. So that's more than 2 changes a day. You have to
Yeah,
think that are coming in. We don't know what they are either. And that's what makes our job so hard because we have to constantly monitor what these changes are and look at trends and be lively in the community, the
yeah,
SEO community, and you know what I mean, the tech community, figure out what's going on. And we all try to help each other because we're all trying to do the same thing for our clients is make sure that they show up, as high as they possibly can. So you have to follow best practices and see what's really going on out there to make sure that, you know what I mean, we don't game the system, so to say, but that we're following what they want us to do based on what their changes are. Like 8 years ago or so, let's go back further out. Let's go back like I don't know. Let's go back to George Bush. I know
okay,
we're going back pretty far right now. Back then, SEO was a lot different. Back then, the internet was just starting and everything else. So people, you used to be able to put out messages and links and say things, and then things would start appearing on the web. So there's a whole bunch of people that got mad at George Bush, right? So one blogger put out a tweet to his whole following, and he had a pretty big following, saying, "Hey, can we have everyone put out a message saying George Bush is a liar?" So if you typed in "liar" on the web, the White House page came up for like a day before the government got involved and shut it down. And it was like a big thing. If you can look it up still to this day, there'll be articles all over about it. So it's just the way that how things change over time, and the algorithms realize, okay, we cannot let this happen anymore. You know what I
yeah,
mean? But links still play a really really important part of how you get ranked eventually. First, you need your core, which is all the site stuff, but then you have to look at links and things like that. Think of it almost as like a big party. The more popular you are at the party, the more fun you're going to have at a party. It's
yeah,
sort of the same thing with the website. The more popular a website is, the more it's going to show up in different searches and things like that. So
yeah.
you know what I mean? The more relationships you can make with other websites, share things. It's really a big network. Is how you want to look at to really really start popping and really make your site go viral and become a true brand.
Yeah. And I think that's what our desire is all the time, but it's always interesting to try to figure out how to do that. So when it comes to looking at SEO and things like that, besides the obvious one of searching ourselves by keywords and seeing how we pop up, what are other ways that we can keep track of that? Are there softwares, other formats to kind of see how our site is doing if we're not at the top page yet, but like still getting results.
There's a bunch of different softwares. The big three out there are SEMrush, Moz, and Ahrefs. They'll track a whole bunch of different things. You can put your website in a lot of them. You can put your competitors' websites in a lot of them. They give you a page grader of how your page itself's doing. Some give you a site background of how your site's doing. You could do audits on your site to see if there's any code breaks or anything like that. It'll all pop up because as sites evolve, and might not even be your site, it could be like your hosting company and the server, they might have an old server, now the server's out of date. This happens all the time, and because the server's out of date, the sites don't function properly along with the new stuff that's going on. So then you have to contact your hosting company and say, hey, can you move me over to a new server? Can you upgrade the server? And they usually do it no problem, because they have thousands upon thousands of servers, and it goes through a rotation, and they might just have you in the wrong cluster or something like that if you don't have your own personal server type of thing. So there's a lot of different things that are going on that are sort of out of your control, but if you know how to actually, or who to talk to get those things taken care of, they can still be taken care of in a timely fashion for you.
Cool. All right, so we're tracking our site. We got our right keywords. We're moving along. We're making progress. As we get further up that page, what are the things we need to do to stay there?
Well, that's the the sooner you get there, or once you get there, it's easier to stay there than it is to get there.
Okay.
A lot of times you can't even get there for certain search terms. So that's why it's really important to look at your keywords first and look at what's in the search. Because most likely you're not going to beat out like Yelp or Yellow Pages, or something like a Forbes or something like that. If you're a normal company, Coca-Cola could beat out Forbes and all those things. But CoachBillMarshall.com and Acularis.com are not beating out Forbes.com. It's just not going to happen. And you have to
Yeah.
realize that going in. But for the terms that you're trying to rank for, if you're trying to rank for, South Jersey business coach, you know what I mean? And once you get there to the number one spot, you're going to stay within the first three spots, usually, unless something goes really, really wrong. Or one of your competitors really sees what's going on and they put a really strong effort into beating you. And that's what it comes down to, is to the linking. And linking isn't just like, hey, I'll get a link from other sites, mentions. Linking's really evolved over the years, where now, to tweets are part of linking, social signals are part of linking.
Mhm.
Getting links from like government sites and edu sites, things like that. So if you're ever doing some people do TED Talks and just different things like this, things from authoritative sites that point back to you are definitely going to help that. And the more signals
Yeah.
you have like that, the more social signals that you have on that, it builds the trust of the site. And that's a really, really big thing. 3 years ago, all sites weren't HTTPS. They weren't under a secure protocol. And that got changed about 3 years ago, where if you weren't there, you had there will be a warning that came up before your site, so everyone had to switch over. It's because of the trust factor. They want
Hmm.
to make sure, the search engines want to make sure that they're not sending people to a fraudulent place, someone that's going to either rip them off or give them bad advice, or whatever it might be. You know what I mean? From just a regular standpoint. So they want to make sure that they could trust you, and that definitely helps out with your ranking factors as well. So once you get to a number one spot or a top three spot, you went through a lot of that already. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
The search engine, they have so many different signals that they know that, okay, these people really know what they're doing, and okay, I think we should probably keep them there.
Yeah.
So once you're there, then that's when you start looking at those harder words we were talking about before. So if we get there for, I don't know, Southeast Egg Harbor best business coach. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like, okay, sure, we could get there probably in a week. You know what I mean? No one's searching for that, but if we want to go after that, we could be there in a week. You're never going to lose that. Now, to become, U.S. best business coach, that's going to take a little bit more effort.
Yeah.
Um,
Absolutely.
so it's like, so we have to look at those kind of things.
Absolutely. How many people are going for each ring? So
Yeah.
to kind of wrap it up a little bit, wrap it into a nice little bow.
Mhm.
What are the results that we can see from having good SEO? We know we can get to the higher ranking of being searched. You mentioned that you become more legit and more trusted. What are some other results that we could achieve by having the better SEO?
Well, the end game or the whole thing, the whole purpose of doing this is to make your brochure a money vehicle for you
Mm,
and your company. You know what I mean? If people are finding you and they're coming to you, that's the whole end goal is for your site to actually be a vehicle for your you to make money. So like I don't know, you might be selling hair ties. You know what I mean? And there's 1,000 other people selling hair ties, but you might be the local person and someone needs a local vendor and they're looking to buy 30,000 hair ties. You want to be the person they go to buy those hair ties.
yeah,
And that's what it's all about. It's all about making money at the end of the day, and this is just another vehicle to get there. There's so many different ways to do marketing to get your website out there. SEO is just one of those vehicles. There's PPC, there's social media, there's TV advertising, there's magazines, there's a whole bunch of different things. This is just one of those vehicles that people need to pay attention to, and with the internet evolving the way it's evolved over the last 15 years, you can really see that people use it more as a research tool and a trust tool than they do as just seeing a billboard or something like that.
hmm,
And that's the main difference. You know what I mean? If you put all the effort in there, because then they can look back, they see your reviews and everything else that are going on about your website and making sure that your product is really what it is or your service is really what it is. And that's what they're going to find online that they're not going to find on the billboard or in the magazine.
absolutely. Awesome. Well, thank you so much. I think we really covered a lot about SEO and the different pieces that we all need to take into consideration in order to effectively do this. So first, Joe, how can people get a hold of you if they have any more questions about SEO or would like to do SEO on their
Sure,
website?
they could always just simply email me at joe@acularis.com. That's ACCULARIS.com. Or they could go to acularis.com. We have a form there, or they could, reach me on LinkedIn or one of the other ways, or always reach out to you and say, hey, Bill, I want to get in touch with Joe. So I know you're there to help with that as well.
Absolutely. And thank you everyone for watching another great interview from the 2023 Business Connection Virtual Summit. I'm Bill Marshall, and again, we will see you all in the networking event tonight. Bye.